everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for our video this week. My name is Amelia.
I'm Maggie.
And we're the educators here at Hawks Aloft. We're going to continue talking about nesting season here, and joining me is Jemez, our Mexican spotted owl. She was rescued in the Jemez Mountains by an employee of the Los Alamos Labs who found her in a snowbank with an eye injury. Vets ultimately had to remove that eye to prevent further complications. Jemez is a really important part of our Animal Ambassador program because Mexican spotted owls are threatened here in New Mexico, which means that it's important that we have someone like Jemez to teach people all about her species and what we can do to help them. We're going to talk about nest drama today, and I'm going to talk about an interesting adaptation called brood parasitism. This is a reproductive strategy done by a few different species where they lay their eggs in the nest of a different bird, usually of a different species, but sometimes of their own species. And they rely on that other bird to completely raise their babies. Now they could do this strategy because then that way they can invest more time and energy into making the eggs and laying the eggs, and less time and energy in raising the young and having to defend the nest. The most famous bird that we know that does brood parasitism is the brown-headed cowbird. But there are other species that do this as well, including many cuckoo species, honey guides, the indigo bird, and the the black-headed duck. That's right, this is the brown-headed cowbird, and the black-headed duck does it as well. Now, for brood parasitism, to make it easier to understand, I'm going to call the species that lays the eggs in the other bird's nest the parasite, and the species whose nest is being used, the host. So what happens is the parasite waits for the host to leave the nest and then quickly lays an egg in there. Sometimes they'll remove an extra egg of the host just to make sure that there's no suspicion aroused by having an extra egg be in that nest. Now, some birds, like weaver birds, will build special nests to keep out these interlopers. However, if they do succeed in getting into the nest, they will often have their eggs disguised to be a similar shape, color, and or size to the host egg. Brown-headed cowbirds, however, do not have to worry about disguising their eggs because they are edge habitat specialists, and they take advantage of a lot of habitat fragmentation. So they'll find a nest of a bird who has never had a foreign egg in their nest before and doesn't know that they need to remove that egg from their nest. But many birds that live and have co-evolved alongside brood parasites will remove the foreign egg before it has a chance to hatch. Now, these eggs that are laid often have thicker shells and shorter incubation times to ensure that they will hatch safely and quickly. Now, once the bird has hatched, the parasite will often remove, it will hatch before the other eggs and will often remove the eggs of the host bird or even kill any siblings that have hatched. And this way it can have the parent all to themselves. There's actually a really cool video of the baby bird removing the eggs that we will be posting to our Facebook page so that you can see that in action. Now, these baby parasite birds grow quite quickly, and they often learn how to mimic the call of the host bird babies so that they can get extra food from their parents. Now, they often will grow to be much larger than their parents, the host parents, so you can get this comical picture of a tiny, exhausted parent constantly having to feed their very large, hilariously large little baby that they didn't realize is not of their own species. So that's just one type of nest drama, and Maggie's going to come join us and talk about a different type of nest drama.
All right, very cool. So even if there are no brood parasites within a nest, being a growing bird in a nest is no cakewalk. There are countless obstacles and hazards that baby birds have to face. And just to name a quick few of them, we've got high temperatures, there could be predators, bugs infesting the nest, diseases, and even smothering by accident by maybe the parents or their other siblings. That's right, Idaho. On top of that, there can be nest drama that parents can never plan for, such as natural disasters, human interferences, and pollution. All these factors and more make being a baby bird have a pretty high mortality rate. So the specific hazard I want to focus in on is one that folks don't really usually think of, and that is the hazards of a baby bird's own siblings. And here to discuss that with me is our sweet Idaho, who was found with her siblings, in fact. She was found in Idaho Falls after being exposed to industrial chemicals with her siblings. Yeah. And even after she was rescued, she still doesn't grow quality enough feathers to sustain long-distance flight. And that's why she lives with us at Hawks Aloft and is cared for and housed by Gail. So in bird-sibling rivalry, individuals in a nest are competing for resources and parental care. And the most common resource that they are competing for is, of course, food. Sibling rivalry occurs in many different forms and in many different degrees. So sibling rivalry can occur, very, very intensely. That might even result in sibling-side, or more likely, it's just the competition between babies begging for food. And that can indirectly harm younger siblings, right? If the big bully sibling's getting all the food, then they might indirectly kill one of the siblings. Because most birds and other animals don't engage in sibling side on purpose. It's more of the subtle sibling rivalry of trying to get the most food for yourself that can result in death. So let's use bald eagles in a nest as an example. On average, eagles lay 2 to 3 eggs per clutch, but they only fledge a little over 1 chick per nest. So that means on average, a nest is losing at least 1 chick in the nest. So what happened there? Well, that sibling rivalry comes back into effect. Idaho, you take a deep breath, girl. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is a really good quote that I found from a New York Times article from Carol Yoon, which I thought really explained the concept of sibling rivalry very well. She said, I'm just going to touch my face, it's okay, Idaho. The system of our raptors has evolved quite ingeniously. The balance is between developing a system in which parents successfully rear the number of young relative to the food production that the habitat has, versus a system in which all the chicks, if they did not get enough food each, would collectively get weaker and all starve. So sibling rivalry is when the bully, usually the oldest, takes all or most of the food until that bully is full. And only then does it sit back and let the other babies eat. This happens then to the third chick in the nest. So that means if there's lots of food in the habitat, all of 3 babies will successfully fledge. But that's not always the case. This is nature's success plan to observe that the babies that can survive will and be put in a position of the best possible survival. So it is a little cruel to think about, but if you'd rather have 1 very successful chick than 3 starving chicks, right? So that's our sibling rivalry little spiel. And thanks so much for tuning into our video today. It was a good one. And we will see you next week.